Hey everyone, I hope your week is going great as I always say, and in this video, it's part 2 of the Deep Woods stories. These stories were originally supposed to be with the other ones in the Deep Woods video, but apparently my computer did not like rendering that video, so here we are with part 2, Deep Woods stories. Definitely pull up a stump, and let's jump into it. Thank you for watching. Ages ago, like back in the 80s ages ago, I was driving through the Alberta Rockies late at night to visit a friend in BC. I was honestly really tired and was starting to fall asleep on the road, but rest assured, at this point, I was still quite lucid and obviously sober. I was driving through some huge trees when these 4 massive, pale legs stepped out into the middle of the road. I honestly almost crapped myself. I naturally slammed on the brakes, and this massive spider-like monster just moseys its way onto the road in front of my car. The only thing I thought to do was honk the horn like it was a deer or something. So the big spider thing just stands there for a second, and then it starts wobbling or skittering toward me, so I stuck my car in reverse and I drive my way out of there. As I'm watching it, it starts doing this weird galloping type thing towards me, and I lose my shit. Behind the thing, I noticed that another car was driving down the other side of the road. This thing must have noticed it as well, because it turned and skittered off into the woods. It was the weirdest and the scariest thing of my entire life. I wanted to share an experience I had in early August of 2017. I have an interest in stargazing and astronomy, and one evening I decided to drive out of the city. I didn't go super far, like 30 to 40 minutes out of southeastern Calgary. I took the number 2 south and the exit, which reads Mazeppa Gas Plant. I pulled off on a gravel road and was stargazing through my binoculars. At some point, I noticed some audible rustling, and I just assumed that it was a coyote. So, I turned my vehicle on and then I continued. Maybe 5 minutes later, I hear this primal yell, approximately 10 to 15 meters away, and I think, yeah, definitely not an animal. It sounded masculine, but it wasn't deep or guttural or anything like that. It was actually quite high-pitched. Scared the hell out of me. I hopped into my car, and I instantaneously locked the doors and peeled out of there. Considering that this was 1 a.m., it was dark as hell. There are no street lamps, and I couldn't see anything on the side of the road. The logical explanation was that it was someone trying to scare me, but that's still a weird thing to do, and such a weird person would be out there at that hour in the pitch black. When I got home, I read about Mazeppa because I knew nothing about it. That exit just felt like a good one to take. I guess at some point, it was a town that was built around the gas plant, but that closed in the late 2000s. When I read the last line of the article, it gave me chills. It said that Mazeppa is now a total ghost town. Has anyone had an experience like this in Alberta? So some things that I did find out was that Mazeppa is indeed a ghost town. That the town was built in the late 80s, like 1986 I believe, but I'm not 100% sure on that. That was just what one source said. I do think as well that the Blackfoot tribe either have or had a presence there in the past, so I looked into some of their lore, and the closest thing I could find in just a general search that would resemble what this guy may have heard was what they refer to as little people. They are these kind of trickster spirits, and they could take the form of various animals and make various crazy noises to trick you or to scare you, but they usually only appear to children and not to adults. The other idea I had was that the name Mazeppa is probably not English. It turns out that it's a Ukrainian name, and Mazeppa is a poem by Lord Byron as well. But I did find something in Slavic or Eastern European folklore that does scream and screech like this, something called a Bukovac, a demonic creature from Slavic stories in northern Serbia. It likes to yell very loudly and lives near swamps, rivers, abandoned places, etc. Could have been a Bigfoot or it could have been something else. It reminds me of a time, though, when I heard a lot of screeching going on in the woods, and I was by myself, and I went to investigate, and it was a fox fighting a pheasant. It was a matchup I had never seen before or since, but it was pretty wild. Anyways, what do you guys think it was? Do you think it was a weird animal, a cryptid, somebody out there playing a prank on them? Let me know. My dad and I live out in rural West Virginia, and there's something that's doing really bad things to animals in the backwoods. I come from a long line of Hicks. My dad is slightly smarter than the average one, and he manages to scrape a living together. My mom left and took my baby brother years ago, so it's just the two of us. Just two dudes living out in a trailer, literally in the middle of nowhere. We take a pickup truck to town once a month for groceries, paid for with disability. Both of us receive it. My checks go mostly to internet and other amenities, though. We've been living out here for about 5 years or so. We have no neighbors. The closest person is over 10 miles away. My dad owns about an acre of land. The rest is extremely dense forest with very ambiguous ownership. There's lots of wildlife since we're so far out, but we rarely have trouble with hunters since there's nothing really out here really worth hunting. That's the background, and it gives you a sense of just how isolated we are out here, which is how we like it. Up until about 3 weeks ago, everything was fine on the farm. There was no weird noises, or monkey creatures, or skinwalkers, or anything like that. There was just a bunch of dumbass raccoons, and some deer, and some scrawny coyotes. Then, out of nowhere, these really weird, mutilated carcasses started appearing on or near our property. The first one was a blackbird. Its wings were broken and tied behind its back like shoelaces. Its neck was snapped. I think this is some kind of really strange natural phenomenon, and then I huck it back into the trees. 2 days later, though, I find a baby raccoon with its eyes taken out and put back into the back of its skull. The 2 sockets were smashed into its head to make room for the eyes. No animal did this. I go to get my dad, but he doesn't really seem to care. He has a lot on his mind. I decide to try to forget about it. But the next day, there's another baby raccoon. Its jaw is broken, and inside its mouth is another bird's head. It's been suffocated to death. Now I'm really starting to freak out. Someone or something is really screwed up and is out here killing stuff. I start patrolling the property with my rifle at night, and I never see a single thing, but the dead animals keep showing up. It's always nasty stuff like that. Pieces of animals stuck into or shoved inside others, animals with organs moved around into different spots, bones replaced with twigs, and this has been going on, like I said, for weeks now. This morning, there was a lot of fog. It was really freaky as I walked out along the edge of the property, and then I see a shape in the distance. It's a deer. It's basically a skeleton with fur. This thing has obviously died of starvation, and looking at its head, I can see why. Another deer's antlers have been tied to this deer's ones, with some kind of twine-looking stuff. Both of them probably died around the same time, but all that's left of one is the head. It's basically a skeleton deer carcass with another deer's decapitated head stuck to it. I'm going to the police as soon as I can. I don't know what kind of sick effer does this, but I don't want them roaming around out here. What scares me, though, is that whatever did do this managed to tie two fully grown male deer together without leaving a scratch on it. So, I don't know what could have done it. So this happened when I was 14 years old. I was hanging out with my bud, we'll call him Josh for the sake of this. Josh is the athletic type. I'm not. I'm a couch potato. We always walk all over the place whenever I go over to his house. He tells me about this trail that he hikes, and even he can't do it without losing his breath. And I think, yeah, okay, you just want to go hiking. So, we go walking, and sure enough, Josh exaggerated, but it was a fun hike. We went around some roads. We came in from the opposite side of the woods, and by this point we are very, very deep in the woods, and I hope Josh knows where he's going. And then all of a sudden he says, "Oh shit, dude, I don't recognize any of this." And I think, oh, great. So we press on. There's roads on all sides of this, so eventually we should come to another. But then there's this part where the dense trees let up. There's no more green. It's a really odd clearing of small trees and tall, dead grass. There's something in the middle, so we go to check it out. We get there, and there's this little trailer abandoned there, like a moving trailer that you would attach to the back of your pickup truck, but there's no markings on the side, and the inside of it isn't all that spooky or scary either. We kind of play around it. There's a lot of random broken stuff all inside. There actually was a lot of other stuff around, but I didn't find that out till later. We get out of the trailer and we walk around to the other side, and there's this hazard sign, a multi-purpose one, like one that flips between several hazards like a book. It's set to radioactive. Realization sets in. Look around. The green stops in a perfect circle around this place. We get really freaked out and scared and just run for it. We get to the dense forest and we push through it. We have cuts and scrapes everywhere. We finally make it back to the road and we give up for the day. Then we head back. None of us got sick, but neither of us got tired during all that hiking or running. Could be adrenaline, but it was still weird. So, part 2 is years pass, and I kind of forget about the place. And then I meet a guy who's into spooky and scary stuff and conspiracies and all that. I'll call him Sky. Sky is my best friend at this time. He's really cool. We're chilling at his place. He invites a ton of his other friends from other schools. There's 5 friends and his little brother. So we're all 17 at this time, so it's about 3 years later. Sky lives near Josh. He decides that he'd want to see this place, so he brings his really bad Samsung camera to photograph the location. We take the secondary route in, the way that Josh and I came out of, and we get closer and more comfortable. Sky's friends steal the hazard sign, and we start walking around. We're probably comfortable because it's a large group, and we're all packing knives, and there's a really big guy with us that has a big stick. We start looking around a little more. It looks like there's an abandoned work site. There's only one problem. There's no clear project or any inclination as to what they were doing. There's just stuff strewn about everywhere. We're all really confused about this. And then one of Sky's friends calls over. "Hey guys, what the hell happened over here?" We come over to him, and he's looking at what looks to be tire tracks, like skid marks. It looks like somebody was in a hurry. We laugh about it a little, and then we go back to screwing around. But in the tire tracks was spray painted, "Be careful." And like I said, we laugh about it a little, and then we go back to screwing around. And we notice that in this clearing, the wind is kind of heavy and louder. We all get back together to chill, and we're just talking. And then the wind dies down, and there's nothing, not another sound. It's just quiet. And then we hear something moving in the tall dead grass. There's 8 of us, all of us teenagers, most of us with knives. And we don't know what the hell this is, so we nope out of there like little bitches and break for it the same way we came. The noises persist and get louder. They're getting closer, and they're coming fast. We all think, what in the F? We run harder, and the big guy is carrying Sky's little brother, still not quite having hit puberty, and not as good of a runner as I am. We hit that dense forest like a wall, cuts and scrapes like never before, but we push through. The noises get lost somewhere in the woods. They seem to have disappeared, but we're running too hard to notice that. We made it back to the road, and we're all accounted for, thank God. We are all extremely tired, cut up, and sore. We kind of nervously laughed to each other, but we all stayed up all night, unable to sleep, and we just sat there in silence. I'm 19 now at the time of writing this. I still haven't gone back, but I do consider it, since now I can protect myself, to see more about just what the hell's going on out there. But if I do, I'll definitely take a party of at least 4 guys, and no 13-year-old little brothers to slow us down. This happened in the summer of 2008. I had just graduated, and I was now living with a couple of friends, and we decided to go camping to celebrate my graduation. So my friends joined me, Seth and Amanda. They were dating at the time, but this didn't really affect our friendship any. We had a truck full of camping gear, and we were going deep into the East Texas woods. It's a 3-hour drive, so I was like, kill me, but it'll be fun when we get there. So when we do finally get there, we set up camp. The first night we're there is totally uneventful. We had a fire, we cooked some food, we smoked a bit, and all was good. The second night, we spent the whole day hiking around the area, and we're all really tired. I crawl into my personal tent, and Seth and Amanda disappear for some alone time in theirs. After a while, though, I hear a couple screams, and at first I think, damn Seth, you're doing a good job there. A couple seconds later, I hear both of them run back into camp. They say, "Get up now, there's something out there." I get out and ask what happened. Something was moving in the bushes, and it screamed at us. It didn't sound human. I tell them that it was likely just a fox, that the vixens scream like that, and I start to calm them down. So I get them to smoke a little more. We turn on the truck for a bit, and we listen to some music. Everything chills out after this. I turn off the truck, and I get back into my tent. By this point, it's like 2:30 in the morning, so as soon as my head hits the pillow, I pass out. And this is where it gets a little weird, and neither Seth nor Amanda can explain this. At some point the next morning, I wake up to Seth shaking me, and he looks super worried. And I think, bro, let me sleep, please. He says, "I think somebody broke into your truck last night." I instantly am wide awake, my shotgun in hand. All 4 doors on the truck are opened. The interior has mud and grass everywhere. I think, what the hell is this? I look on the ground for footprints, and there's nothing. Seth says, "You didn't hear anything last night?" And I say, "No, did you?" And he said, "Amanda woke me up because she saw the lights on from the cab. She figured that you were smoking. I freak out a little bit, and I decide that our last night there, we should all stay up. We spend the whole day looking around camp for signs of any kind of intruder or any signs of anything, and again, there's nothing at all. The whole day, though, we were really nervous and didn't talk about our plan to stay up. We took naps from around 6 p.m. and woke up at 8:30, just as the sun was going down. And this is now Operation Night Watch. There's nothing going on, so we all pile into Seth's big tent and we're smoking. It's around 1 a.m. and we hear the same scream as the other night. Amanda turns on the waterworks, silently crying and saying that we have to leave. And I say, hell no, I want to scare whoever this is for screwing up my truck and getting it all dirty like that. The screams go on for an hour or more. It finally stops. Seth and I load our shotguns and step outside the tents. We quickly make a fire just made of dried grass and random twigs and stuff, and we turn on our flashlights, and we can see maybe 20 yards around the campsite. Seth says, "Hey, look," and we see eyes peering from the woods. I fire a warning shot over to it, and I tell it to get the F out of here in a loud voice. It screams back and takes off into the woods. I say, "What the hell is that thing?" But Seth is already throwing our stuff on the back of the truck. I start adding more paper and trash and grass and everything else I can find to the fire so we can see. By this point, it's about 3 o'clock in the morning and we're 80% packed. We just have the tents left. Amanda is in the truck having a full-blown panic attack. The screaming starts again, but farther away. We pack up the tents with light speed. We just throw everything into the bed of the truck. The screams are getting closer. I panic, and I fire a shot in its direction. If anyone has ever used a cutting torch, you know that sharp hot metal smell. We start smelling that hot metal mixed with like week old food. I start to gag, it's so bad. I'm about to get in the truck. I put water on the fire. I look up from the fire, and I see the eyes again in the fading light. It's less than 15 yards away from me. I freak out. My shotgun is in the truck. I run as fast as I can and just jump into the truck. I 3-point turn as quick as I can. My truck is now facing the road that we drove up. And I shit you not, this thing is now visible from the waist up, and it's standing off the road. It had antlers, like a buck. It stood 7 to 8 feet tall almost, and it had massive shoulders. I couldn't really see the head because of the shadows, but the way the body looked like it was covered in fur. I don't know, maybe it's just trauma and me misremembering, but Seth and Amanda completely refused to talk about that trip afterwards, and after I moved out into my own place, they deleted me off Facebook, and they won't talk to me. They won't answer any of my texts or my calls. I don't know if this is what you guys call the Goatman, but that's my story. So, what'd you think of those stories? Let me know which one was your favorite one down in the comments. And if you want more of them, then I can always do that. And if you want to support the channel, I have a Patreon, I have a PayPal, and all that good stuff. There's also super thanks as well, which I'm always thankful for. And yeah, thank you all for pulling up a stump with me. Thank you all for watching the video, and I will catch you again in the next one. Oh, and I have an email if you want to send your stories in too. All that info is down in the description below. But yeah, I'll see you in the next one, probably next Sunday, and yeah, have a good week.